I'm going to open the May 15th, 2019 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on April 17th, 2019. And has everybody had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes? Any questions, concerns, comments?
I have one typo to correct.
Okay.
Bottom of the first paragraph, last line, and that is unit, the addition. So I think if we just said, and the second is considered the accessory dwelling to which the addition is proposed, that would probably do it.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve with that amendment?
I make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'll abstain because I was not present, and I want to publicly thank Richard for leading the meeting since I was being held hostage by Judge Mott over in Ulster County. So thank you very much. All right, our new business, first order of business, is the plat matter. So the way we proceed here is if you could come up to the microphone and just tell us briefly what your application is, and then we will decide whether there's enough information to accept the application and take it from there. So take it away.
Sure. My name is Clifford Platt, and I am the applicant. I provided each of you with a application packet that I hope you all have.
Yep.
I'm going to discuss some of that material in brief tonight. If there's any questions about any of that, please ask, and I'll be happy to provide that information. In essence, we're here tonight for an interpretation of the Rhinebeck Town zoning law, specifically with reference to a March 1st, 2019 letter that I received from the zoning administrator advising me of her opinion that she believed that that I was in violation of a permitted use of the property. I'm here tonight because I do not agree with that, and because I would like the Zoning Board of Appeals to interpret the Rhinebeck Town zoning law as the use that I'm using the property for is a permitted use as an agricultural use under the Rhinebeck Town zoning law. The issue, I think, is one that's simple because it's singular and focused, and that issue is whether the specific use is an agricultural use under the Rhinebeck Town zoning law. I also feel that it's a straightforward issue in that it is fact-driven, and it's an objective determination that the board will need to make. What I mean by that it's an objective one is that it's not a subjective decision to make or determination to make. There's a very specific, defined definition of agriculture within the town zoning law. And what I mean by that's fact-driven, that the facts of the use demonstrate that, in fact, it is an agricultural use and therefore a permitted use. So let me begin by giving you a little bit of background information, a few facts. Then I'll discuss of the use. Then I'll discuss the relevant zoning law, and then kind of circle back around to the application of that use to the zoning law, demonstrating that it is in fact an agricultural use and therefore a permitted use. First, I and my partner Patricia Wind, who's here tonight with me, are promoters of local farming, of small to medium local farming. What we do is we engage in various activities to help promote small and local farms begin, succeed, do better, thrive. What some of you may know, or not, so I'll discuss it, is that in order for a small to medium-sized farm to operate each day, to be a success and to stay in business, is that they have to perform a lot of different functions, have a lot of different hats on a daily basis. Unlike perhaps larger farms, large industrial farms who may have various departments. They may have a finance department, a planning department, a growing department, a livestock manager, a marketing department, a transportation department. Small to medium-sized farmers need to do it all. And so they have many functions they perform every day, many activities that are farming activities, many activities that are integral to their agricultural operation. Those activities, some of them include work they do, activities they do in the field or in the barn. Other activities include things that is necessary for the farm to succeed, like promoting their product, like reaching out to buyers to buy their product, like once they make a sale to get the product from the farm to the buyer, and collecting the money that they need to stay in business when they make a sale. All of those are farming functions, integral to farming operations and our agriculture. None of them is any more or less part of a farming operation than the other, the marketing part or the part in the barn or the field.
And your part?
Our part, which I'm going to talk to you about, is that many of these farmers don't have enough time to do that marketing part, to do that transportation part, to do that promoting part. Some of them do it, but would rather not do it. Some of them can't afford the time to do it or the equipment necessary to do it, like have refrigerated vehicles that can get their product from their farm to the buyers in a timely manner and in a food-safe manner. And that then prevents them from being able to make sales. So what we began to do is we began to work with small and medium-sized farmers to help them with certain parts of their functions in a cooperative way. In essence, what the business we have is called Farms to Tables. And in essence, it's a farmers cooperative where we work side by side with all of the farmers throughout the Hudson Valley. Our limitation is a 100-mile zone from Rhinebeck. We only work with local farmers. We only promote local farm product. We help them in a cooperative manner all together, promote all their farm product in one place so that potential buyers can be encouraged to buy local farm product because they can buy a wide variety rather than to have to deal with every single farm and have every single farm invoicing them separately, bringing their product to them separately. It's a kind of a single location where where buyers can buy local Hudson Valley product in all one place. So we help them promote their product, we help them market their product, and when the farmer makes the sale, which is a direct sale from the farmer to the buyer, part of the condition of that sale is to get the product from the farm to the buyer in a timely manner and in a food-safe manner in refrigerated trucks, vans. So that's what we do. We help them in a cooperative manner promote, market, and then get, as a condition of the sale, the product from the farm to the buyers. The vehicles that are at issue as part of this reason we're here tonight, they are refrigerated vans. They operate on the road each day, and they're on these farms every single day. We work with between 80 and 100 farms throughout the Hudson Valley. They're on the farms every day, picking up the product, taking it to buyers. The farmers can't make these sales unless the buyer knows that it can get to me quickly when I want it, within a day. It's delivered within 24 hours, and in a food-safe manner. It's integral and essential to them being able to operate and survive. And otherwise, they would have to do it themselves, and some do. Some do it themselves. Some larger operations like Miglarelli Farms, they have the same type of, some smaller vans, some larger trucks that are refrigerated, some unrefrigerated. Others like Katie of Yellow Bell Farms we work with, she also has refrigerated vans that she takes some of her eggs and chickens with, but she relies a lot on us to do that for her too, so that each of these farmers can concentrate on what they do best, which is raising their livestock, raising their crops, and allows them the opportunity to focus on that rather than the marketing and transportation aspect. So these vehicles are parked at the property 854 in the evenings. They are simply parked there in the evenings and at times on weekends. There are 3 and at times 4 vans that are parked on the property. So that's the use that is at issue here. And what I do want to talk about the zoning law, but before I do that, I want to address an issue that the zoning administrator raised, that it was her opinion that what we were doing was operating a wholesale business. Although I understand at first blush it may appear like that, but the reality is we do not operate a wholesale business. We do not buy any product. We do not sell any product. We do not warehouse any product. We are not in the business of being a middleman between the farmer and the buyer. We simply help them get together, that the farmer make a direct sale to the buyer, and we help them get it from the farm to the buyer.
So you transport, basically?
Yes, correct. Which really, is an integral part for the farmer, because if they can't get it transported safely and quickly, then they can't make the sale. Which, some of them do themselves, but they don't have the complete capacity to do it in a manner that we can do it cooperatively all together for them. In practical reality, in business reality, we're not a wholesale business. Also, within the definition of the Rhinebeck Town zoning law, as defined, we do not meet the definition of a wholesale business that requires that we either buy and sell product or distribute product and sell and buy to merchandisers who will be buying and selling that product. So we do not meet the definition of the Rhinebeck Town zoning law as a wholesale business either. So then, turning to the relevant zoning law that's at issue, the property is at 854 Mill Road. It is in the RA10 zoning district, which is this, as you all probably well know, this green, massive green area to the western side of Route 9. As you saw in the packet, the property is kind of right at the end part of the town of Rhinebeck, at the RA10 zoning district, just on the southern edge of the Southlands property. So it's a very large swath of the RA10 district, which we are well within. As you certainly well know, the RA10 stands for rural agricultural. And by definition, agricultural within the town zoning law is a permitted use as of right. Now, to know, well, what does agriculture then mean within the town zoning law? Well, the town zoning law has set out a very specific definition for what agriculture is. So that in order to know, well, what is agriculture and what is not? So then what is a permitted use and what is not? That's contained within section 135 of the town zoning law. And I did provide in each of your packets, but I also have a highlighted copy that will be easier to follow with. I can give each of you.
Thank you.
So, in the preamble section to the definition section of the Rhinebeck Town zoning law, as you may well know, for those of you who are intimately involved with it states that the definitions as set out in this section 135 are the definitions that must be used in interpreting the town zoning law. So agriculture is defined as, quote, in the first line, tells us generally what is defined as agriculture. And so the yellow highlighted area is any activity connected with the raising of crops or livestock. The second sentence then goes on to tell...
Before you go on, at first blush, we learn and look at all sides of this. But
Sure.
I think the word connected is going to become a very operative word. I happen to be an attorney.
As do I. As am I.
If I was your attorney, would I be connected with the raising of crops?
Yes, we are, which I'm going to go forward and talk to you about.
Oh, so you believe if I was your attorney that I would be connected to the raising of crops?
In your profession as an attorney?
Yes. I took no course in agriculture in law school, nor did you.
You would have to explain to me what activity you're engaged in that is connected to
What I'm
farming.
bringing forth is going to be a problem or an issue for all of us as to the word connected.
Sure.
I'm just suggesting, would you consider, if I was your attorney, would I be connected with the raising of crops? You said yes. If that's your answer, fine.
No.
No, I think you misunderstood.
Yeah.
But in fairness, I think you misunderstood. You're saying basically the transport for the assistance you give.
Right, the marketing and promoting and transportation is the activity that is connected with the farming.
I understand that. But I'm saying, at what point is connected not connected? If I
Well-
were the attorney, I would be connected to the...
You would be
raising of
providing
crops, but
legal-
Not in accordance with this definition.
Sure. You'd be providing legal services, which I do not believe would be an activity that is connected with the farming in the way that I'm going to describe to you in a moment. If you permit me.
suggesting
Sure.
there are activities that are related to the to your business, but they're not connected to the raising of crops.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Fair enough. So the first part of this first sentence describes for us then what in general is defined as agriculture. That's any activity connected with the raising of crops or livestock. The second sentence then goes on to then give us some information about, well, need the activity be performed by a farmer or can it be performed by someone else? It reads, this shall encompass any activity or use engaged in by or on behalf of a farmer in connection with farming. So this then tells us that the activity need not be engaged in by the farmer. It also can be engaged in by a third party on behalf of the farmer. The second sentence continues on to then give us some details and list out for us some activities that then are considered agriculture under the definition. And it reads, quote, including but not limited to storage, transportation, and use of equipment for marketing. So that here tells us then, when you read it all together, that the storing and use of the vans on behalf of farmers in connection with marketing and farming is a agricultural activity as defined in the Rhinebeck Town zoning law. That's essentially it.
That's the argument.
That's
Yep.
the issue.
I think we understand the argument, and I think you did a good job setting forth in the packet your position, and then the zoning enforcement officer also has put forth her position as well. Before I forget, the chickens are out of this?
They are. They are. And just to address that, so under the town law, it requires a 3.0 acre property or more to house chickens.
Right, and you're 2.9.
The property is 2.96.
Okay.
We're 0.04 acres below the required amount, which I feel is in some ways an exacting application, but I understand it because I understand strict construction. So even though we're 0.04 acres below, I did agree to remove the chickens from the property. However, I feel that's perhaps maybe not a good policy application, but in any event, I understand strict construction, so I agreed to do that. And so I would ask the same strict construction to be applied to the application here of the use to the town zoning law.
So the chickens have been
Removed.
rehoused,
They've been rehoused. Very fortunately, we found
Rehomed.
very good homes for them, yes.
relocated?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions or concerns?
No, I understand the argument. Any questions, concerns from my board members?
No, I'm fine.
No. I think I have enough information here from both your perspective and the zoning enforcement officer to make a motion that we accept the application.
Second.
Any other thoughts about that? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We have to set this down for a public hearing. We also have to do a secret determination. And John, I guess we'll do this first, maybe the secret determination.
This is going to be type 2.
It's definitely a type 2. I have in my crib notes that it's 617-5C31, an interpretation an existing code, rule, or regulation.
How old is that? Because
It may be old.
the seeker regs got revised.
So it's up to
And
37.
the type 2 list on January, so
I need new crib notes then. All right, so it's 37, it's not
I don't have
31?
the list in front of me right now, but I'll check it, and if the site needs correcting, I'll get in touch with you.
Okay. If we could get the updated, because what I have is, it must be from last year, because it used to be 31, but it looks like it's now 37.
Okay, and
So,
we may be giving an educational presentation to the planning board later on in the early summer about the changes to seeker.
okay, good. All right, then I'd make a motion that we classify this as a type 2 action under seeker under 617.5C 37. Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor? Yes. Okay, and then I'd make a motion that we set a public hearing for, what are we looking at in June 19th? Are you available on June 19th?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd make a motion that we set the public hearing for June 19th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye, okay. And
No referrals required.
no referrals are required, but somebody has to be responsible for doing the resolution. It's probably my turn.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yes, what you were going to say? That's what I thought. It is my turn, I'm sure, so I'll be responsible for this. Okay, what'll happen is, the folks around you will be notified of, this application. You'll come back on the 19th. You've probably been through this before, I don't know if you have or not, but basically give the same spiel and be prepared to answer questions from the audience and from us and all that, okay?
Thank you very much.
Great, we'll see you on the 19th. Thank you. Okay. The next application is, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, is it Barisi?
It's Cheryl
Barisi? So I did okay. All right. Ms. Barisi, if you could just...
I'm Mary Holdeen.
Okay.
From Bayhorse.
Okay.
I'm representing her tonight.
You've been through this before, probably.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so, did you just basically tell us what the application is about? And we'll probably have some questions.
Okay. This is for Cheryl Barisi at 336 Route 308 in Rhinebeck. We have been asked to build a 20 by 20 ranch garage, two-car garage, one story. And the problem we ran into is the only place to put it is in front of her house.
And that's because of the topography?
Yes, yes. And in the packet is the sketches for the garage, the topography, a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers, and all the information about square footage and the building. It's going to be stick-built on a cement slab, a haunch slab. So we're asking for permission to do that.
Okay. How far, and it may be in here, I apologize if it is, do you have well, you do have a sketch showing how far ahead of the house it is?
Yes, yep.
It looks like, is it, what, 30, if you can take us through
It's 30...
the sketch?
Okay. The garage will set 30 feet off of the road.
Okay,
There is a fence there now, so the fence will actually be hiding most of it. It will be 60 feet off of the left side. It will be 24 feet away from the house. It will be 250 feet from the back side of her property, which basically drops off to the river stream. The house sits 50 feet off of the road. The garage will be 115 feet from the right side of her property, and she has a little small shed there now on the right side of her property.
okay, let's see.
Does it face the house directly on the left?
When you put, like the house is here, and the garage will be here. So she'll pull in, like toward her house, and then go to the left to go into her garage.
Is the driveway, it's not really shown on here, can
The
you?
driveway actually is a circle driveway.
Okay.
So you go in one side right next to the house, and you circle back around where the front of the garage will be to come back out. And it's already there, it's blacktop.
Okay, well, we can see that when we go out and do the site inspection.
There's no neighbor to the north,
No,
right? There is a neighbor to the south.
yes.
Anybody have any questions, concerns?
Nope.
It's pretty straightforward. I assume the representation of what the garage is going to look like is, this is accurate, this is what it's going to
That
look
is
like?
actual, the drawings, yes.
Okay.
They match the blueprints that are stamped by our architect.
Okay, and it'll match the house in some fashion?
Yes.
I would presume?
Yes, same color, everything.
Same color,
Yeah.
okay.
Same roof,
The survey
yes.
from 1977 doesn't show the shed, right?
No, it does not. The shed is actually,
It's like over here.
yes, right next to,
Yeah.
yeah, right off that sideline. It might be a 6x8, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
It's real small.
Was there any discussion about any plantings between the road and the new building?
Well, she has the fence and a couple of trees there now that we're not going to disturb. And then on the back side of, it's like a privacy fence that she has there. And then on the left side of her property is just like a chicken wire type fence that'll be behind the garage.
And what's the greatest height of the roof?
Oh, I think it's, hang on.
The only thing I'm getting at is, what's the height of the fence and what's the height of the roof? And I presume you're going to be able to see it to some degree.
Higher than the fence,
Yeah.
yes. I don't think it actually says in here. Maybe it says on here.
I didn't see it on the,
I'm not seeing it either.
well, you can supply that information, certainly.
Okay.
If you could just the greatest height of the roof, and then if you could let us know what the height of the fence is. I mean, we'll go out there and do a site inspection, so we'll be able to get an idea.
Okay. I want to say the fence is like 6 foot tall.
Okay, that would make sense. The other thing is it staked? Where
It
the
is.
It is,
It
good,
is.
great. That's important for us to get a perspective when we
Yep.
go
And then
out.
tomorrow I will be going there to post the signs for the public hearing in June
Okay,
from the last meeting I was at.
okay.
The property runs over 300 feet on one side and 250 on the other.
Yes.
There's no other place to put this building?
When you go there, you'll see that here is her property, and then it drops off down an embankment, and then the stream, and then it comes up the other side.
Okay, all right.
So does it drop off just behind the house kind of thing?
Yeah, the house actually sits on the ledge, and there's stairs down and a deck that's hanging off the back
Okay.
side.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know how to use parcel access?
Yes, I do.
You know, there's a topo layer on there. It might be helpful for the board to have the topo layer from
Sure.
parcel access
Okay.
and show
Sure.
the lines.
Yep, I'll get copies here tomorrow.
Okay.
And so it's me if you want.
Yeah, it's an easy one, so yeah, you get, of course, you want to take it. All right, anybody have any other questions, concerns, or, it's pretty straightforward. So at this time, I'd make a motion that we accept the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye? All right. It's a type 2 action, and according to John, it's under 617.5C12, And so I'd make a motion that we deem the application to be a type 2 action under seeker under 617.5C12. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. And we need to have a public hearing, and the next hearing date is the 19th, if I recall correctly. Can you be here on the 19th?
Yep.
All right. So I'd make a motion that we have the public hearing on June 19th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, so if you could supply us... Yep, referral, before the planning board? That's it, as far as it?
Yep.
Okay. We do need to have the additional information.
Yes. Okay.
So if you could get that to us, before the next meeting, certainly,
Okay.
but maybe in the next week or two would be good.
I'll try and get it to her tomorrow morning.
Okay. Chris can get it on to us.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so a referral over to the planning board, and we'll see you on the 19th.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too. Oh, and we're going to give this to Mr. Tobias.
Gabe's gonna got this one?
Yes, he volunteered.
It's very complicated.
Yes. A motion for a public hearing on the June 19th. Yeah, I did, I think. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was squeaking.
Sometimes I miss it, but yeah, I thought I did. All right. Oh. All right, I am definitely going to apologize in advance for mispronouncing the next applicant's name. Maybe you can help me. Is it Eva Schutten? Okay.
You can call me Jerry.
Or Mr. I?
Mr. I is fine.
Okay. You've seen what the process is, so if you could just state your name and the nature of your application.
Okay. My representative is in here, Paul Terms, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. My name is Jerry Bashutin. I own a piece of property at 476 Route 308, and I'm asking for an area variance on the accessory building. The property's 8 acres. There's a barn, another barn cottage that are connected, and a tenant's house. It's a historical property. When I bought it, it was, and still is, in quite a bit of disrepair. And we had decided that we would renovate the barn and turn it into our home, since it's attached to the cottage, and we would take the main house and turn it into a rental. The cottage had been a rental for quite some time. We're just reversing the roles of the buildings, basically. It didn't make much sense to renovate the barns without purposing them for something. I mean, they need a lot of structural work. They need roofs, window, just about everything imaginable. The building inspector visited me there a couple of times, and the engineer is designing structural repairs. The main house itself we're living in it, but also doing a lot of exterior repairs on it just hasn't been taken care of for a long, long time.
So there's not going to be really any change to the structures, they're just going to be rehabbed.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. And if I understand this correctly, the house that you're currently living in is approximately 1,500 square feet, and because you want to make it an accessory structure, which limits to 900 square feet, you need the variance of 600 square feet.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
They tell me it's going to be 200 years old next year.
Okay. Do you have any plans showing, is the exterior of the buildings, are they going to be changed in any way?
We're trying to keep the barn elevation off the road pretty much the way it is. We're keeping like the cupolas, we're basically keeping clapboard siding, double hung windows. We've gone through pre-planning twice in our first planning meeting a couple of weeks ago. So what's visible will be close to what the original is. We will make changes on the backside where we are going to put some doors and windows in for our living quarters.
Do you have any renderings showing what the final project will look like?
Yeah, they're all submitted to planning. I can
Okay.
get you copies.
Getting us a copy would be helpful, too,
Okay,
because
yeah.
that's part of our process of evaluating the variance, whether it's going to change the character of the neighborhood and whether it's going to fit in, that kind of stuff. So we really need to see what the final product is going to look like. So if you have that, that would be great.
Okay, well, planning has 11 copies.
I know. Well, if you could get us a copy, and we can either make copies or...
I mean, the structures are existing.
No, I know they're
Yeah.
existing, but I just we'd like to see what they're going to look like when you're
We are adding to the
done.
barn, we're adding a garage, an
Okay.
attached garage.
Right.
And that's the only real construction there.
So let me just ask some questions. So the existing house, which is right down here,
Yeah.
nothing's happening to that, you're just going to change the use?
Yes,
Okay, it's going to become a rental?
basically, yes.
Okay. And then this existing barn here,
Uh-huh.
what's happening with that?
Well, there's two barns. There's a
Yeah.
small barn and a large barn.
Yeah, and the small barn?
The small barn, I basically have a come-along keeping it from falling down at the moment.
Okay, so nothing.
I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. The building inspector looked at it and said, try to keep it from falling. We're working on some way of dealing with it.
And then, so then the renovated barn is already connected to this other cottage?
The one we're going to renovate is
Yeah.
connected to the cottage. Yes, you can, on both levels, you can walk from through one into the other.
Okay. The garage is new,
The garage hasn't been built.
right? It would be,
Yeah. Yeah.
new construction, but connected to the larger barn?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Now, which one is closer to the road that your address is on?
The barns are close to the road. The house itself is back along the wall towards the mansion there.
So will he need a variance? No. It's
I think it exists already, so.
yeah. So he wouldn't need a variance for accessory dwelling for the
Well-
positioning?
It's not more than 3, is it? I mean, because they're attached.
Right.
John?
I can't hear you.
I think the argument is because of the additional garage and what is being proposed here, do they get outside of more than 3 accessory structures? I don't think so. But is that your argument, Catherine? Or are you
No,
wondering?
I was just trying to figure out, I mean, it actually looks now like that the main dwelling is closer, that the accessory structure is closer to the road than the main dwelling.
Right, but
They'll
it's gonna be
actually
reversed.
correcting
It'll be
that.
correcting
They'll
that,
be
yeah, yes.
correcting that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that's
Okay.
what I was trying to figure out. Thank you.
All right, if you could, I'd like to see the renderings that you've given to planning, just so we can see what the final
Sure,
product
no
is going to
problem.
look like.
How many copies do you need?
How many can you give us? If you can give us, for everybody here, that'd be great. I mean, do we have a capacity to make copies if you're supplied with 1 or 2, or is it really?
You want a big one, or just as a PDF?
They're 11 by 17. They're
That's good.
copies I have. I'll make 6 tomorrow and I'll drop.
That's great. That's
Okay,
just helpful.
of course.
And we'll be doing a site visit, but it's also helpful to see what's going to, the
Okay.
final product's going to be. Any questions, concerns of the board members as to the completeness of the application? No? All right. there are no requests for additional information, I'll make a motion that we accept the application subject to getting the renderings.
Okay.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. All right. John, I see the...
Rendering and the planning board site plan? Or is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Same thing?
I think you have the site plans with the application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John, it looks like...
So the site plan in front of the planning board doesn't show the road?
Show what road?
The, whatever public street you're on? Is this the map you're talking about? So this is the back of your lot, right?
This is the driveway, the road is up here.
Okay, it's not shown on the map, that's why I was just wondering, is the map that,
Actually,
the same-
there's two site plans. One is,
There's two maps,
this is
yeah.
an enlarged one, and then I submitted two plans.
okay,
One has the entire survey on it.
okay.
Yep.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Might not have scanned well.
The driveway goes from 308 to Miller Road.
Okay. Thank you, I hadn't seen the road.
Now, on the seeker issue, John, it shows in the notes that Kimberly provided that it's likely that the planning board is lead agency on this?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to deal with that.
Well, we do only to the extent of the timing of the board's decision will have to be
Right.
managed to post-date the planning board's determination of significance, or
Right,
roughly, anyway.
but we're not there yet, so...
No, we're not.
All right, then. Since we don't have to deal with seeker, I'd make a motion that we have a public hearing on this on June 19th. Can you make June 19th? Is that a good date for you to come back?
Sure.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we put this on for a public hearing on June 19th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye? All right. I don't know if you've been through the process before, but at the public hearing, the people around you will be notified about what you're proposing.
Sure.
Some may show up, and you just have to be prepared to tell them what you told us about the application.
Sure.
Answer whatever questions.
Okay.
Very similar to this.
If I don't make it, can my representative, our
Certainly.
engineer?
Certainly.
Okay, good.
Yep,
Great.
absolutely.
All right. Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll see you on the 19th or
Okay.
your representative. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So I have a question for the board members. There are some factual differences, but this application is, got some similarities to the wheel
Yeah.
area variance application. Would it be helpful to you for us to circulate back to you the
Absolutely.
decision in wheel?
Yep.
So you can see, because one of the things that you may recall from that, now that the main dwelling in this instance is small, is smaller. As I said, there's some differences, but you did attach some conditions to wheel, and you just may want to see what your thinking was at that time, because you have an obligation and a responsibility for there to be consistency of reason in your reviews.
Yeah, I think it would be very helpful, and it is very similar.
Okay, I'll circulate that, hopefully before the end of the week. You can? Okay, oh, that'd be great, that'd be wonderful.
John, I've brought this up before. Is there any one-family restriction on a property like this? In other words, they're not applying for a variance. They're not varying from that. I think this is a carryover from work I've done in New Jersey, where, the towns, well, it's an R1 zone, it's one family, or it's R2, it's two family.
Well,
The zone that this type of property is in, there's nothing in the code that says you can only have a one-family house.
well, it is only going to be one family. What they will have on this property are accessory structures, and you're allowed to have 3 roofed accessory structures. And, you know, the use of those structures, I mean,
But one of them will be rented.
And they're
yeah,
connected.
that's not really the issue that's in front of you, though, right now. I mean, as you know, it's
But
not
I
a
think that was
secret
the
that
question you were asking.
short-term rental is not an allowed use in Rhinebeck at the moment.
At the moment, right?
Right.
But that's not really the issue that's presented with this variance application. It's not the use of the
Okay.
property, it's the locations, but,
And the size.
And this-
yeah, the size, I'm sorry, the exceeding the 900 square
Yeah.
feet.
Thank you.
All right, I apologize for us being a little late. The public hearing, which was scheduled for 7:50.
Scott, this should be assigned to someone?
Yes, you're right. Anybody want to volunteer?
Oh,
All right,
Is that Richard?
that's Richard. Okay, so the next thing that's up is the public hearing for Hudson Valley Rhinebeck. Good morning, or good morning.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Rodenhausen.
A long day.
It's a long
Good
day,
evening.
yes.
My name is George Rodenhausen from the firm Rodenhausen, Shaw, and Polidoro, located right here in the village at 55 Chestnut Street. I'm here tonight with Scott Dutton from Dutton Architecture, who is the lead architect on the plan, on the program. And we're here to represent Hudson Valley Rhinebeck LLC, who is the owner and developer and the applicant for this project.
Just before you start, is there anybody here for this application? Anybody here for this application? Okay. After Mr. Rodenhausen goes through and explains the application, and there'll be some questions and things like that, you certainly have an opportunity to get up and ask whatever questions you like. I just ask that when you get up there that you state your name, your address, try to keep your voice as clear as possible, but you're here to ask whatever questions you want about the project, okay? Feel free to do that. All right.
Thank you. I'll just summarize, since we've done this before, presented to the board here before. But for the sake of the public, the project is a residential project on 136 acres on the property which is known as Rock Ledge. The Rock Ledge estate was built over 100 years ago, and it is an historic resource which is now a national landmark, I'm sorry, National Historic District, not a landmark, but a National Historic District, in which there are 4 contributing buildings, all stone buildings. The most significant one is the Manor House, which has been used for many purposes over the years, a novitiate, a resort, drug rehabilitation center, and so on. The other stone buildings include a stone barn, what we call the stone barn. And the proposal being brought to the planning board is for a 36 dwelling unit development utilizing this property, including adaptive reuse of the historic structures. Of the 36 dwelling units, 28 will be dwelling units built in clusters of 4, so there'll be 7 clusters of 4 units, sensitively placed throughout the property. And then the other 8 will be in the 2 structures I just mentioned, in the stone barn and in the manor house. Now, when we made the presentation to the planning board, we proposed 4 in each of those 2 buildings, and to put 4 in the manor house is very easy because there's plenty of room. The manor house has a lot of room left over with just 4 units. And in the stone barn, we have to build an addition onto the stone barn to fit the 4 units in. That is allowed by the zoning. What we're asking for is a variance from one provision of the zoning law, which is in section 125-62, subsection G, subsection A3. And I'll just read the part that we're asking for a variance from. It says, up to 4 residential dwelling units may be allowed on the lot or lots proposed for an adaptive reuse special use permit, provided the planning board makes a finding that such renovations, alterations, extensions, or additions satisfy the stated objectives found in subsection 4, F4 of this section. And that section F4 is the section that describes the importance of historic adaptive reuse. So what we're asking for a variance on is that limit of 4 dwelling units in the manor house. We'd like to move 2 of the units that we would have been putting into the stone barn over to the manor house so that the stone barn would only have 2 units in it, and the manor house would now have 6. There would be no net increase in the number of dwelling units in the 2 buildings. This total number of 8 would stay the same. This is partly in response to comments from the public at the last meeting, before the planning board, several meetings ago, and also from the planning board, which is that the stone barn is about the only building on the site which is clearly visible from a public road. It is fairly close to Accord Hook Road. And if we put an addition on it, which we'd have to do in either case, but an addition for the 4 units would be a fairly significant addition to that building. And there was some objection to that in terms of visibility. And so we've come up with the idea of moving 2 of those units over to the manor house, which would reduce significantly the size of that addition on the stone barn. In the manor house, there's plenty of room for the additional 2 units. There's still additional room left over for other functions. So the addition of the 2 units there would have no adverse impact on the neighborhood. Certainly, the manor house is only partially visible from the road, and it is not going to be changed on the exterior by the construction of the 6 units in the house. That's a quick summary of where we are. I wanted Scott to show you the layouts only for the purpose of showing that they can fit easily, and to also let you understand that we will still need an addition on the stone barn, but not a very significant addition. So if we could just turn it over to Scott for that description.
Great.
Thank you, George. My name is Scott Dutton. I reside at 584 River Road in Rhinebeck. I'm the principal of Dutton Architecture, and our firm specializes in adaptive reuse projects, and we have been involved in a number of projects that have gone before the New York State SHPO office and the National Park Service. As George indicated, the property is eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. We have that documented. The structures are unique. And from my standpoint, practicing for 22 years now, I think this is a classic example of where the process and public input has brought us to a much better place. As George stated, we're simply looking to move 2 of the units that we have demonstrated can be added to the stone barn and move them into the manor house, which is a much larger structure. In your packet, we have included floor plans of both, and I'll open those up so that the public can view them. The first board here shows the stone barn with the 2 units.
Can you folks see, by the way? You can come on up and if you want to get a closer look.
The stone barn is a 2-story structure, and what we're proposing is to create the 2 units each with 2 levels. So they're depicted here with the first floor plan and the second floor plan. The blue and the blue go together, and the beige go together. And we've included 3D renderings of the stone barn with the small addition. The proposed addition is roughly 700 square feet on the ground floor and 492 square feet on the second floor, for a total of 1,192 plus or minus square feet.
Are these all proposed new?
No. The blue depicts one of the dwelling units and how it's laid out, some on the ground floor and some on the second floor. The beige indicates The second dwelling unit, all of this is inside the existing structure, and this small piece off the rear is the addition. In the renderings, you can see clearly how the addition is positioned with respect to the existing structure. It is nested inside the existing gable. It's lower, and in keeping with all of the guidance of the Secretary of the Interior's Preservation Brief 14. The view from Ackerd Hook. View from Ackerd Hook, coming from the south. View from the existing entrance to the property. And then this is a view from interior of the site.
So the new is shown here in sort of lighter color.
Correct.
It's not shown here.
Correct. It's here in the floor plan, and here in the floor plan. The existing walls are a little over 2 feet thick, so you see the change from the stone walls to the wood frame walls here. You sure?
Maybe we put it up over there, Scott, so,
Over here?
on the table there, just so
Sure.
it's still visible. Gotcha.
What you see here are the plans for the manor house, which is a 3-story structure with a walkout basement. Total gross square footage of the building is just under 24,000 square feet. And here we've color-coded the 6 units, showing how they comfortably fit inside the existing manor house. For the most part, the units exist on one floor, with the exception of this wing over here, where we have a 2-story unit. We have the darker color here as one unit on the ground floor, the blue, the dark beige. I'm sorry, ground floor here. The lighter teal, second floor, the blue, the dark beige, and 2 units on the 3rd floor.
Is that an elevator? Is there an elevator?
There is not an elevator. No change to the exterior other than preservation work.
And with the small addition.
Pardon me?
And the small addition.
No small addition to the manor house.
It's on the other building.
Correct. Right. And I should say that this project will be subject to the review of the New York State SHPO office and the National Park Service. So all of that work will have to follow their guidance and will be heavily scrutinized.
I'd just like to point out that we're showing these floor plans for the sake of showing that it's feasible to put these units in the building. In fact, this actually works quite well as 6 units. Whether the planning board wants to see this as part of the site plan approval, I don't know. I kind of doubt. It's a residential structure. Usually the interior layouts of residential structures are not part of the site plan. But in any case, we'll show this to the planning board. And only, again, for the purpose of showing that the 6 units fit within the building nicely, not using the basement for any residential use. And I also didn't want to get too involved in the elevation of the other building, only to show that we're going to reduce significantly the size of that extension. And I guess it doesn't show the 6 units on there versus the 4 units versus 2 units.
I have it in there. It's a small handout package.
Yeah, I think we sent you that smaller, sort of like a site plan that's colored, that shows a larger extension for 4 units. So the benefits of this are, again, that we improve the visibility from Ackerd Hook Road, so I think it's a benefit to the neighborhood. There's no negative effect on the manor house. Manor house is actually not that visible from the road. It's a significant increase from 4 to 6, so it's a 50% increase. But again, it's completely concealed, and that 4 to 6 is concealed totally. And the benefit is that we reduce the other one from 4 to 2. So I think overall, we meet the criteria for an area variance and leave it at that.
Any of the folks here who are for this application who want to be heard? And if you do, please stand up if you could at the microphone, state your name, your address, and whatever questions or concerns you have.
I'm Doug Westcott from 517 Acrosbrook Road, and I'd like to understand this calling the Old Stone Barn, is this the chapel, is this the barn, or is this the gatehouse? And what are you going to do with the other two structures?
Okay. These names do change a bit. I don't know if they're historically given as names, but we've given them the names Stone Barn, which will be used for residential use. The gatehouse is there, and that will be a gatehouse, basically, for entrance and exit. And the chapel will be used for a recreational facility, a fitness club.
Carriage house. Carriage house. Right. The stone barn is also known as the stone chapel. We've been advised that it was originally constructed as a stone barn, and at some point later in the 60s, it was used as a chapel, so it has both names.
So you could use both.
Yeah.
Okay, but the other building will be the recreational facility.
The carriage house, which is in
Carriage house.
Right side.
And so the exterior of those two structures won't be changed?
Correct.
Okay.
Do we have any, okay, come on up, and again, state your name and your address, and whatever questions and
I'm
concerns
Kieran
you have.
Conway. I live at 584 Ackertook Road. And
Excuse me, your name, please?
Kieran Conway.
Okay.
What was going to happen to the old building where all the, it's like a modern building built in the 80s? That, what's it called?
There's a mistake.
Well, it's what was built by a prior owner for a dormitory for people who were there in the rehab units. So we're going to use that for storage and for facilities necessary for maintenance.
It's a big
It's
building.
not going to be used as a residential structure.
Yeah, but it's a very large building for storage. It's probably 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. What are you storing? It's 2 floors. It's a residential building. It's not suitable for storage. It's all broken up into living quarters, bathrooms and kitchens. Have you seen it?
I mean, all I can say here in this proceeding is that it's not going to be used as residential structure. It's actually not part of this proceeding, but its intention is to use it for storage and for maintenance facilities, for utilities.
Wasn't there some land rigging or very funny borderlines to accommodate the mansion and the 4 units, and then the other thing in 4 units? Don't you need a certain amount of land for the 4 units versus 6 units? Would you have to increase the land on the mansion to accommodate the 6 units?
Well, that's what we're asking for the variance on. Each of these buildings is going to be on a 5-acre lot. That's the subdivision proposed to the planning board. That's pending. The application's been filed. Wait for seeker to be done, and then, and I mentioned here that the seeker will be done by the lead agency, by the planning board, and then we can get the subdivision approval. So they're each on 5-acre lots. I think that map which you have in the file, the site plan map, which has been artistically done by Scott Dutton's office, shows the boundaries of the 2 5-acre lots. They're not particularly conventional because they have to meet all the requirements of the zoning law, but they're not going to be sold separately. They're all going to be part of one condominium unit owned by one condominium association. So they're there for the purposes of qualifying for this adaptive reuse bonus. That's all they are.
So I'm still not clear, I'm sorry. It's just, maybe I'm not understanding. So you're wanting to put more units than are allowed in the 5 acres. You're putting 6 units when you're really allowed 4. Do you need some special hardship for that, or why would you think you qualify for that?
So that's the purpose of the application to this board, is to,
Okay.
this board will determine, there's a criteria in the law that this applicant has to meet, and it'll be the job of this board to determine whether they should be allowed to
Okay,
do that.
thank you.
Come on up.
Betsy Sarles, 364 Primrose Hill Road, and I was just wondering what the finish on the addition is going to be, the building's stone. Is it going to match, or is it going to be wood, or?
So the Secretary of the Interior offers pretty clear guidance with respect to additions to historic structures. They suggest that the building be that the materials be compatible, but they not mimic and not create a false sense of history. So it will be up to our office to make a presentation to the New York State SHPO office and ultimately the National Park Service. We have a pretty good idea of what they would like to see, and we will be presenting a wood siding so that it's clear that the addition is of this time, but the form and the shape is sympathetic to the existing structure. So for instance, we're not proposing a steel and glass addition to the stone structure. The existing structure has a gable roof, so the additions are proposed to have gable roofs, not to compete with the existing structure, but to complement the existing structure and leave a record over time that clearly there was an addition added to the existing structure. So right now we're proposing wood as a siding material.
And the state has to approve that?
Yes,
the
the
design?
New York State Office of Parks and Recreation, Historic Preservation.
Are you doing the condos also?
Yes.
And they'll all be cohesive?
Yes.
Come on up. And you can lower that just so you can, you don't, there we go.
I usually can talk pretty loud anyways, I teach. So I'm Marissa Monahan, this is my husband Rich Monahan. We live on 8 Kipsbergen Drive, so just around the corner from this area. I'm actually a little perplexed, and I don't know if I've missed stuff, but this is the first hearing that I'm aware of. Is this the first hearing that's been presented to you on this property?
This is the first public hearing.
First public
in
hearing.
front of our board.
Okay. I know there have been other hearings a few years ago. There was one at the Beekman Arms that we attended, and that I had many, many questions that were left unanswered, including what is the cost of each of these units that will be for rent, for sale, and what does that do to the market, and also the increase of traffic on Akron Hook, which is a town road that doesn't get plowed very well in the winter, and you're adding at least how many more cars to that road? And it's not a lined road. Oftentimes, people are very close to each other on that road, and I just feel like I drive it every single day from my house to work for the last 7 years, and this is the first notice I've seen of anything regarding this beyond the one meeting that we went to at the Beekman Arms. And I feel like this is much further along than what I would have expected for a first hearing, and I'm just kind of curious of how much this has been approved.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on at the planning board level, which
Okay.
is a separate board. We just sit here to rule on various
the
things, but
zoning
on
component.
whether a variance should be granted.
And
So we
this
have a
is-
very distinct, small piece of this, and so a lot has been done at the planning board level, but I'll let you fellas try to address the questions.
Thank you.
That meeting you referred to was our meeting. We called it to inform neighbors what was going on. And we haven't had to do that lately because we've been having hearings and meetings at the planning board. In fact, I believe the hearing is pending now at the planning board. It's been opened and pending. And
So there haven't been any, I'm sorry, there haven't been any hearings for the planning board?
There have.
There have.
They've been going on for, actually, on and off for quite a while. This project has evolved due to public reaction, and we've changed the design somewhat. We've changed from Country Inn to what we have now. But and the traffic has been dealt
Well,
with.
just to get you up to speed, I mean, you can check the town website, and
Okay.
you should be able to glean that information.
But were they posted the way this meeting was?
I presume so, yes.
No. No, the variance required a different.
Not by mail, not by physical? We did not receive that.
Well, it depends on what the distance is.
Right.
I mean, we're less than a mile away from this. What is the address that you have? It's 8 Kipsbergen Drive. Kipsbergen? Kipsbergen.
But the meeting should be saved on the town website, so you can go back and
Read all
see
the
what-
minutes.
read all the minutes and see what's, and I presume they're televised as well, so you can see what's going on, and just to get yourself back up to speed. But,
Yeah, I have a further suggestion. So Gretchen Smith is the gal who works here, who is the secretary for the planning board, and her office is downstairs. And if you come by sometime during the week and explain to her that you want to get yourself up to speed on what's going on, she'll be able to show you the file. The meetings are on YouTube and all that, but she might be able to sort of show you the key documents that'll let you kind of get up to speed. The project has been, I'm the lawyer for the ZBA. The project has been in front of the planning board for quite a while now, and as George mentioned, since the days from the Beekman Arms presentation, the project has changed quite a bit. A lot of that as a result of the comments that have been made by the folks that live in the vicinity of this project. The public hearing, I believe, is still open in front of the planning board. They're actually waiting for this process over here at the ZBA. All we really are dealing with here is just the tiny issue about whether those units can be shifted from one building to another. All of the other issues that you mentioned when you were up here talking, the traffic and all of which are important issues, those are in the basket of the planning board, and they are looking at those.
That hasn't
Yep.
been decided upon yet.
That has not been, the application is still open in front of the planning board.
We've definitely, I mean, I only saw this because I drive by it every single day, and it was the first time I've ever seen anything posted, and we have not been notified.
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly where you live, but there's a certain distance that the notices are sent out on. But my suggestion to you would be, if you want to keep up, the town's pretty good about keeping the notices posted on the town website, and it'd be a good idea to just keep looking in on there to see what's going on. And a lot of your neighbors have been really involved, and you may not have to walk very far from your house to find people that have been, doing a lot of work and participating in the process, and they may be able to help you ramp up also. Okay?
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Scott Kosofsky. I live at 364 Primrose Hill Road. I have been attending the meetings of the planning board around this issue, and I've been astonished to see that it would be even considered that the division of the lots for this project, which look rather like a Houston congressional district map, they're so outrageously gerrymandered that in order to meet the RC5 specifications, now that it has already hit the limit at 4 units in the manor house to meet the RC5 specifications, there's now a desire to up it to 6, which is perhaps not such an unreasonable plan as a business plan, but I'm really concerned, and I'm not sure whether it's this board or the planning board that has primary consideration on this issue, but I'm deeply concerned that to offer this variance for no apparent mechanical reason, other than to perhaps alleviate the sin of an overdeveloped stone barn, which is the equivalent of saying, if we won't drown your dog if you go along with this plan. I'm concerned that others who will apply for similar variances would use this as a precedent, as a kind of precedent almost without specific cause. And I hope that if it's this body that has to consider that, I hope you'll take it into consideration that it is not just for this alone, but for many, many other things in which any number of attorneys could come forward, take you to court, and say, they gave a variance to these guys, why not to us? And you would have no reason to give them of why you did it. So I'd like you to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
8 Kipsbergen Drive. Just along the lines of the variance, I am curious, so you did state that the total number wasn't going up of occupants? And then I guess my question would be then why the extra space is needed?
Why, I didn't understand the last question, sorry.
So my question was, so the total number of occupants, residents, wasn't going to go up, but so then why was the need for the extra space?
We're actually not asking for additional space. What we're asking for is a variance allowing us to move the...
Well, yeah, you might want to address...
allowing us to move 2 of the 4 units from the stone barn to the manor house.
Is that because you said they were big?
No, the reason for that was we wanted to minimize the visual impact of the addition of the stone barn from what it would have been for 4 units to what it would be for 2 units. Significant reduction in size, and also make better use of the space in the mansion, which is available.
Direct response to public input.
Right.
Approve the plan.
Right, so the basis, the genesis of the variance that you're requesting is in response to the public's concerns that you heard at the planning board.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I would think it's important that the zoning board understand how the land's been divided up. In how many acres are being put with the mansion, how many acres were being put with the stone. It's very important you understand that before, that's the very first thing, before you get to the next step of saying yes or no. You have to see how the land is being split up, how the wetlands are being cut off, how everything was rigged to maximize the density. So therefore, when you change units from one place to the other, I think it's important to change the lot lines, and that will affect everything. Okay? So you don't just answer the question, you gotta look. All right?
But we're not changing lot lines.
Yeah, but you might have to, because the mansion is now approved for 4 units on 5 acres, and you'll be putting 6 units on that many acres. That's not within zoning, right?
Right, but so we're not changing lot lines. What we're doing is granting a variance from what the law allows, which is 4.
But you have the option. They have the option to change the lot lines. They could do that, and then they wouldn't need a variance.
We actually don't have the option to do that here. The board here will only decide whether or not the variance that's been asked for is going to be granted.
Yes, I'm just saying, the applicant could do that. They could change the lot lines, shift some land over, and make it work, right? You might.
Well, that's you're right about that, but that's all being handled in front of the planning board.
Okay.
And so.
Wouldn't that have to be decided first then, before it would go to you?
Well, the seeker review that's being done at the planning board hasn't been concluded yet. The purpose of this application is for the applicant to come here to see. The planning board is also interested in finding out whether the zoning board of appeals is going to be interested in granting this variance. And if whether the board decides to do that or not, that element of knowledge needs to be incorporated into the planning board's consideration of the application that's in front of the planning board.
But do they not have to finish first before it goes to you? Would that not make sense?
No, they don't.
No? Okay.
What they do have to finish before a final decision gets made by this board is they need to get their environmental review up to a certain point. They either have to issue a negative declaration, this is lawyer junk, doesn't make sense to you, but they have to bring the environmental review almost to the point of completion before this board is able to issue a final decision. So the boards are trying to coordinate their reviews.
So will we have more time to come back and discuss this again, or is it going to be decided soon?
Well, there's a question, this board will have to decide tonight whether it's going to leave this public hearing open in front of the ZBA. If they do, you'll have a chance to come back next month, and if you have other things to say, you can do that. And the public hearing that's open in front of the planning board right now is still open. So there'll be at least one more session and one more opportunity for the public to comment at the planning board level.
And Ken, what happens at the planning board affect this decision? If, just say if this was granted, could it be reversed? As a result of, no.
The planning board has to consider the application with whatever decision the ZBA makes.
Okay.
Now, if the plan ends up getting changed so that something gets changed in the plan that moots the variance decision that was issued here, it's possible that the applicant may have to come back here and get another variance so that everything fits together.
I get you.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And one last thing, I think, just be clear that we will be out there on site doing a site inspection. I don't know if you know that, but that's part of our process, so that we can see where the buildings are. We can see, you know, what we're talking about here. It's not just looking at maps.
Yeah, and just so you know, too, the boards are talking to each other. An effort is made so that, you know, things don't happen in a vacuum. So this has been, this variance application has been referred to the planning board for comment. We haven't received comment yet, but the planning board chairman tells me that there will be comment coming. So the planning board will be communicating with this board before it makes its decision. And that communication will be a public record, by the way, so you can get that through FOIL.
Also, in terms of the site visit that we're going to be doing, we intentionally kind of delayed the site visit till after we could get this first round of comments from the public, because that gives us a much better way and set of information to go look at the site.
We understand your concerns. Anyone else who would like to be heard tonight? All right, I believe this is the first time on for our public hearing, and because of the complexity of the matter, and the fact that we haven't heard from the planning board yet, it would be my recommendation that we would keep the public hearing open until June 19th, so that we have input from the planning board, and also that'll give us an opportunity to go out and inspect the property. So that would be my preference, but I want to hear from my board members about what you think.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I agree.
Right, because it is a complex, and it's a big project with a lot of interest, so I don't want to rush it. All right, so what I would like to do is to make a motion that we keep the public hearing open and have it continued on to, June 19th? Right. Do I have a second for that application?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the public hearing will be kept open till at least the 19th, and hopefully we'll have the additional information we're going to need from the planning board. We'll have our site inspection. We'll probably close it at the 19th, although who knows, but that's probably what's going to happen, okay? Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Yes, sir.
Is the site inspection for everyone or just for the planning person?
Well, no, I'm going to go out there, I know myself. I believe some other board members want to go out. Would we contact you, Mr. Rodenhausen? Okay, to get out there? It'll probably be a couple at a time, although I don't think we're prohibited from all going out, as long as we don't discuss the matter. So we'll see.
Catherine, you should definitely go.
Is there
yeah.
any particular time that's better or worse? Doesn't matter? Okay.
No, I mean, it would just be good, whoever we meet out there, that can kind of give us an idea of where the lot lines are, so that we can, you know, take into consideration all the discussion around that.
Yeah.
Can the board keep these boards? It all looks very fancy, but if you could bring that board with you out to the site visit, it'd really make life a lot easier. Or, yeah, something like that.
There you go.
I think,
Yeah, those look
that'd be
fine.
great. That'd be great. I'm sure that's handier than carrying the boards around.
yeah,
We have these.
we have these.
Okay. These are,
Yeah,
I'll take
I'd like
them all.
those.
That'd be
you're gonna
great.
like them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank
I
you.
like the grande size. Thank you.
I'll only need to wear one pair of glasses.
Yeah, right.
Well, if it's sunny, you might have to wear two, but of course it's never sunny, so.
Okay, so, Mr. Rodenhausen, we'll be contacting you about coming out and doing a site inspection in the next, week or two or whatever it is. All right? And again, thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Just wanted to say thank you for all of your service to the town. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Everybody interested knows that anything that's been submitted by the applicant can be obtained by you. You just have to go to the office, ask Chris under the Freedom of Information law, and you can be provided with copies of everything, okay? But don't be shy about asking.
Thank you.
I'd like to come with you.
Okay, great, all right.
Oh, these are
Yeah,
great.
you want to go, well, maybe at the end of the meeting, we'll talk about what might be a good date.
Thank you, George.
Okay. Good. All right, last, but certainly not least, it's the Kufner matter. Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Logan. I'm an attorney with Rodenhausen at 55 Chestnut. I'm here on behalf of the Kufners, who you may recall have appeared before this board previously in regard to their plan to put an addition on an existing accessory dwelling located above a garage on their property at 73 Strauss Lane. While the ZEO was reviewing that application, she realized that an additional 2 variances would be necessary. So we are now before this board with an amended application, also seeking those variances in addition to the 2 that we originally sought for the addition to the dwelling. Just to summarize, the variances affecting the dwelling are from the 900 square foot limit on residential accessory structures and to encroach into the rear yard setback 14 feet. The variances that are new before the board tonight are for existing accessory structures on the site. None of this is new construction. None of it is proposed. They are all already there, and the ZEO finally learned that they're there. So we're seeking a variance to go from 3 permitted accessory structures to 5, and to allow us to exceed the square footage of those accessory structures. Now, all of our basis and reasoning for why we believe these variances should be granted are in a letter, or set forth in detail in a letter that we provided to the board today. But just to summarize, this is a fairly isolated property. It's a flagpole, and the flag of that pole is about 6 acres located well off the road. And all of the dwellings and structures on that property are hundreds of feet away from any dwellings or structures on any neighboring property. In addition, if you look at it from above, it is isolated in a pretty significant patch of undisturbed forest. So we truly believe there won't be any effect on the neighborhood or the neighbors for any of these variances. This is especially true since no one even noticed that these structures were here for decades, it seems. Now that we realize that these structures are here, we are communicating with the town building department and the ZEO to make sure that they're in full compliance. These structures include a barn, shed, playhouse, and greenhouse, I believe. They're all pretty low impact, low intensity structures. They're typical of rural residential lots in this neighborhood. And we don't see how there would be any,
Okay, yeah, and I will tell you that, yeah, we know what the application is, and it was just that because of the discovery of the additional buildings, these 2 new variances were required.
Yes.
We were considering whether we should go forward and have a public hearing and let the public know about this then, I think it's more prudent, that was our ultimate thought, was that it was more prudent to just slow down and then, get this application amended and do it the right way. And now, when we do the notice for the public hearing, the public will be well aware, they will not be surprised that there's 2 additional.
Makes sense.
So that's the reason for the delay. So I don't have any problems with accepting the application as amended, but I do want to hear from my board members about what concerns, if any, they have.
I have a question. You said nothing new, no new construction, but when you say you're adding to the existing apartment, you're converting space or you're adding space?
No, when I said there's going to be no new construction, I was referring to the variance for the 5 total accessory structures. There are currently 5. There will continue to be 5.
Okay.
We're not creating any new structures.
But you are putting on a brand-new addition?
Yes.
Thank you.
600 square feet or something
Right.
like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay. Since there are no questions, concerns, I would make a motion at this time to accept the amended application. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. I think we did a prior seeker determination, John, as I recollect.
Yep.
And I don't think that changes.
I don't think so.
I think it,
But I would suggest that
we'll go
you
through
make
the-
a new motion.
I'll go through the motion, yes.
For the amended application.
Okay.
Sorry.
For the amended application, it appears that 2 sections, well, first of all, it's certainly a type 2 action under seeker, and that 2 sections are triggered, 617.5C12 and 617.5C16. So at this time, I'd make a motion that we deem this application to be a type 2 action under seeker under those 2 provisions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And at this time, I'd make a motion that we have a public hearing scheduled for June 19th. Is that an acceptable date? You're able to be here?
I will be able to be here. There's a possibility that the owners will not, but
As long as, well, there's a representative, that's all we need. All right. So I'd make a motion that we set the public hearing for June 19th. Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor? All right. And I presume that last time around, somebody
I'm doing it,
volunteered,
yep.
so Richard, you'll be doing it? All right. Referrals, I don't think that changes. I think it's just to the planning board, but.
I would re-refer with the.
Yeah, re-refer, yeah.
application, okay?
Yep. I think that's it. All right, we'll see you on the 19th. Thank you very much.
see you in June.
All right, any old business?
Who was assigned?
Richard was.
Richard.
Yep, he's going to keep it. And I think that is it for the agenda. Anything else anybody can think of?
Adjournment is what I can think of.
Adjournment is what you can think of. That's what you've been thinking of.
Only for 2 hours.
Yes, all right. So would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion
Second.
to adjourn. Seconded before it was finished.
That's right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? You can stay here by yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're off.